Okay,
This
so
conference will now be recorded.
we talked about the collection, and we talked about linked list, I think, and
Okay.
then we talked about the Java cursors, and you talked about the emulation, and I think that's basically that's it.
Enumeration, right?
We were at the emulation of Java console, I think.
Okay, I have explained you that enumeration, no? Like with an
Yes,
example.
I think you explained me the emulation.
Okay, enumeration. Fine. With an example.
Sorry, yes, enumeration, yes.
No, not an issue. So with an example, I have explained you that how you add an elements like that.
Yes.
Okay. So we need a cursors. The purpose of cursors is.
By the way, your computer is back. Is okay now? The performance.
It's not too much, but it's okay. It was okay now.
It's okay. It's normal. Okay.
Sometimes it's getting hanged. Sometimes it's working.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
Okay. I'll get some crap of water.
Yeah, sure. Huh?
Can you hear me, right?
Yes.
So we are discussing about the enumerators, right? So mainly
Yes.
enumeration or iterator or what is this purpose of cursors is to get the objects one by one and iterate them and satisfy your condition and to print that particular objects, right? So So if you see,
I don't
have added.
know. Can you share your screen, please?
Okay. I have not done it. Yes, yes, exactly. Sorry.
Okay.
You can able to see it, right?
Yes, yes.
So, so assume that you added some elements to rectangle, right? So, for example, so when you print this, what is going to happen? It is going to print all the values, right? So it is going to print 1, 5, 2, 4. So, but what you want only even numbers to be printed. You don't want the odd numbers to print. So what you do? You take the objects one by one and you check whether that number is even or not, right? So you know the logic to check whether the number is even or not. It is like if the number is divisible by 2, you will be telling it's an even number. If the number is not divisible by 2, you will tell that it's an odd number. So cursor is something where it is going to iterate or it is going to take one by one object from your collection. Like this is the collection object which is which prints all the things, but I want only 2 and 4 to print. So for that I need to iterate this. So for that I'll use a cursor. So you have a cursor called enumeration. So for enumeration, you whenever you want to get enumerator, you will have a method called al.elements. So this will return an enumeration object. So it is going to return an enumeration. So I think you know while condition, right? Mike, what is the
Yeah,
while
yeah.
condition?
While, yeah, it's like a loop.
Loop. So for example, whatever the thing that you written, if it is true, it will go to the while. If not, it will not go to the while condition, right? The same.
Mm.
So here what I'm doing. So I'm saying has more elements. So if there are elements, it is going to go to there. If it so if it will be it will return a Boolean value. If it is true, it will go inside. If not, it will not go inside. So it is like your collection is having elements or not. So next element will return what is the next element that is present, current element that is present. So now what I am getting the int elements, right? The integers that I have stored.
Yes.
And I need to do typecasting because it is going to return me an object type and I'm going to do it typecast to an int type. And what I'll do, so I'll check the condition. Now I'll be getting the 2 number here. So 1 number here. What is that? This 1 number will be present in 1 value is present in I. Now I need to check whether this is divisible by 2 or not. How I'll check? If it is divisible by 2, it should be. So then I'll print that value. Else I will not print. So here what I'm doing, I'm printing only the even numbers. So if you see, has more elements, it is going to check whether the elements are present or not. Yes, elements are present. So it will go inside. So e dot next element. So first it is going to get the first object from the collection. So what is my first object? 1. So it is going to get this 1. So it will check whether 1 is divisible by 2. No, it is not divisible, right? So it will not print. It will not go to this if condition. Now what happens? The while is continuous. It will continue until this gets false, right? So now your while gets here. So now has more elements. So what your cursor is pointing? Your cursor is pointing to 5. So it means you have an element, right? So it is going 5. So I dot next element, it will get your what your next element. So it is your I will get 5. So is 5 divisible by 2? No, it will not. So similarly for 2, yes. 2 divisible by 2, yes, it will print 2. Now again 4. Yes, 4 divisible by 4, it will print. When it comes out, so whenever it printed 4, now there is no has more elements, this will return false because there is no elements that left in your collection object, and it will come out of this loop. And if I run this will be the output. So this is nothing but first time I'm printing total collection 1, 2, 1, 5, 2, 4. And here what you are doing, you're printing the only the even numbers. You can see. So you save this examples like as an enumerator or something else.
Yeah.
You go through this example once again. Is it clear, Mike?
Yeah. What's the line of 20 means?
You're not clear with this.
This one.
So how your so what your collection is having? So your collection is having order of the elements. Your collection is having 1, 5, 2, 4, right? So when I e dot next element, what it is going to do? It is going to return me the next element. So here first time it is going to return me the 1. So I'll debug it. You get more clarity on this.
And okay, we need the brackets with int also.
Bracket.
Yes,
This is
bracket
for
with
type conversion. So what I'm doing, so your e dot next element will return an object type, right? So object is what I said, that is object is a parent of all the classes, right? Now, but what, so why it is returning an object type? Because in this vector I can store an int value as well as string value, right? So then this is nothing but a predefined method, right? E dot next element is a predefined method. So then they need to specify what is the return type. So instead of they cannot specify int type, or they cannot specify string type, they cannot specify some float type, because if they are specifying some int or float, what should you add? You should add only int or float or string, right? So but vector where you can add any data type. So in that case, what they are going to specify, they are going to specify it a generic type. So you see the return type of this e dot next is nothing but your object. So e dot next element, you can see after the element, you can see whatever the boolean is a return type of has more elements. So next for next element, object is a return type. So for example, notify and all this have do not have any return type. So here, what is a return type? This is an object. Now, but what you are trying to store here, you are just storing an int value, right? 1 or 2, that is nothing but your integer. So now what you are doing, yeah, this is nothing but your typecasting. You are converting the object type to an int type.
Okay.
Is it clear, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll once again, I'll debug it. If you want, you can get this more clarity.
Suya, I don't know. In your background, someone is talking.
Yes, yes, give me a minute.
Oh, okay, okay. No issue, no issue. I thought it's a connection issue. Okay. No,
Not
okay.
still the call is happening.
Oh, and you. Okay, I see. Okay, okay. No issue.
Okay. So if you see, I'm just seeing something whether something is important going on. I was just
I see,
even I
I see.
didn't want that it got skipped, right? I just
Yeah, yeah,
want to
yeah.
start
Yes.
again. So that's the reason. Even I have tomorrow. It's not like only one day.
Ah,
But
I
it
see. Okay.
should be released by this time. It's getting
Sure.
extended.
Yeah, yeah. And okay.
It is not much, right? It is very little, right? You can able to.
No, yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. I thought it's our connection issue. If not, it's fine.
It's not a connection issue. I have the laptop, so where the call is happening. Fine.
Sorry. So, can you go down, please? You want to
Sorry?
debug? Okay, okay, okay.
So you see, I'm just debugging. So you see,
Yeah, yeah,
I just
sure, sure.
and you see there is an AL where I have all added all these elements, and you can see I'm just printing that. So after that, what here there is an enumeration comes to a picture where you want to get the elements one by one. So if you see here, so you have an enumerator here, right? And this is nothing but your enumerator. And first of all, your enumerator count is 0 now. So now what it's going to return? It is going to return me a true value because it is having an element. Your collection is having an element, so it is going to return a true value. So then they are going to go inside. Right, and here e dot next element, what is this next element will return? It is going to return me the 1. So that is an object type and you are converting that to an int type. So that is going to return me a 1, first element 1, right? So, and if you see after entering this, your count got enumeration, you have an enumeration, you have a variable called count, and your count got increased to 4. So how much time this count, whenever the count is less than or equals to 4, it will become, when the count is 5, it will come out of it, right? They have, so it is like this will read the length like that, you can see. So now, yes. So what is your I value here? Your I value is 5. Okay, your I value should be, okay. The count has become 2. So first element has done. Okay, something happened. So now you see this is not divisible. Your count got increased to 2. And now what happens? Again, your I value will be here. Your count will become 3 again. And the debugging is sometimes it has some issue. So here, what is this next element? Here it will be your 2. Right, it will be 2. And this 2 divisible by 2? Yes, obviously, yes. So it will print that 2 value. And now,
Yes.
similarly, it is going to print that 4 also. The same thing is going to happen. So some problem with the debugging. But I think you are clear, right? How it is happening?
Yeah. What is e dot has more elements brackets? It's a
predefined method. In enumeration, that's a predefined method.
Oh, it's a predefined method. Okay. Okay, I know. Okay, okay, okay. Has more elements. Predefined method. Okay.
Yes. it's having it's a predefined method where it's going to
Okay.
so okay. I think you copied this somewhere, right?
Yes. It's yes. I already copied. Yes.
The problem here with an enumerator is it is applicable only to the legacy class. And you cannot, what is a legacy class? The class that you introduced in 1.0. For example, I said you have different versions, 1.0 and 1.2 versions of Java. The classes or the things that are introduced in 1.0, you call it as legacy. So your enumerator is a legacy one and your vector is a legacy one. So that's the reason you can apply this enumerator to a vector. And you cannot apply this enumeration to an array list or linked list because they are not legacies. They are introduced in 1.20, 1.2 version. So this enumeration cannot be applied to them. And one more thing, disadvantage is nothing but, well, for example, when I have printing the even numbers, and if I'm trying to, so after printing that even numbers, if I'm printing that array list, so now what it's going to print again, it's going to print me the whole list, right? So here, what you are doing, you are just printing the even numbers in this case, and you are not removing that. You are not removing the odd numbers, right? So whenever you want to remove the odd numbers, you cannot even use this enumeration. So enumeration is like just to get the jokes. You do not have an operation called remove. So for that, so these are some disadvantages that you present in enumerator. For that, you have something called your array iterator. So instead of just an enumerator, all these are predefined methods. In array list, you have elements is a predefined method which will return enumeration. So you have has more elements is the cursor, like, so it is going to return a boolean type whether if the collection is having the elements, it will return true. If the collection is not having the elements, it is going to return me the false, right? So whenever it returns the false, it will will not go enter, will not enter. But there are some disadvantages in enumerator. That's the reason you can go with an array list. So So if you see I written an array list and you cannot apply that elements value to an array list because there is no elements present in that array list. So you cannot apply this enumeration to an array list. So for that reason, what you need to do, you need to have you will have a method called iterator. So this iterator is going to return me an object called list iterator. And I can say that as I something. Instead of has more elements, there is a method called I dot has next. So it's like going to return me the true or not. And instead of that next element, you have a method called next. The same process, whatever you have done within the same. So I cannot repeat the variable, right? It cannot be duplicated. So I'm changing the variable. So the same thing happens here. What you want, it is not an even number, but before case you are not removing it, but here I just want to remove. So for that I can write else condition, and in else condition what I'll write, that I dot remove. Now if after this, if I'm printing that array list, it is going to print me the list without having an order. So because if it is not an even number, what you are doing in else condition, you are removing it. So here I should not print I, and should print A. So it is printing that object iterator. So that's the reason it is printing the hash code. So you can see now they are printing the even numbers, and even after when after array list, when you are trying to print, it is going to remove the odd numbers, and it's getting printed. So that you cannot do it in the enumeration. So you just go through this example once. Is that clear, Mike?
Yep.
Okay. So you can see like your Java cursor has been divided into 3 types. So they have given it wrong actually. So the version is not 1.0, it should be 1.2, and it should be also 1.2. That is, here your iterator is not 1.0, it is 1.2 version. And your enumeration is 1.0, which is legacy.
So all of these cursors are currently still in use, right?
Yes, exactly that. So you can see that example of a list array iterator. What I've shown you an example. So it's like they are iterating just by a string, right? If you see your list iterator is a child of an iterator, it means your list iterator will have all the methods that are available in your iterator, and even it will have few more methods also. So, but what is the disadvantage with an iterator is, in this iterator you cannot able to add a new thing, elements, right? And in this iterator you cannot able to replace some object, but you cannot, you can able to do that in your list iterator. So that is nothing but your updates with advantage with a list iterator. So instead of using an iterator here, if I'm trying to use a list iterator, so in the iterator you cannot go forward direction, right? So you can, in the iterator you cannot go reverse direction. Here you can do reverse also. So
I don't get it. What you mean the difference between iterator and the list iterator, right?
yes. So your list iterator is the child of your iterator, right?
Okay.
So it will have all the methods that you are present in the iterator also. But in the iterator, the disadvantage is, for example, here in this iterator, what you are trying to do, you are trying to remove the element, right? I'm trying to remove some elements. So, but while iterating, I cannot add some more elements, or I cannot able to replace. For example, you have 5, I cannot replace this 5 with some 6, like that. I cannot do the replacement, I cannot do add an element. And in this iterator, what you are having, you are just going in a forward direction, like you are going to check 1, 5, 2, 4, right? But you cannot go reverse direction, right? In this iterator cursor, whether the iterator or enumeration, you cannot go it in a reverse direction, it's only forward direction. But in case of list iterator, you can go in a reverse direction. It means when you are in 2, and the element, when the cursor is at 2, you can go to 5. That is nothing but your reverse direction, right? So that you can do in case of your list iterator. I'll just show.
So list iterator, you can do reverse order.
Yes, reverse order. Reverse.
Okay.
I have a method called list iterator, and the return type of this will be a list iterator.
And it can update, it can change.
Yes, exactly. So, for example, I just want to, if it is an odd number, I'm just removing, and I want to add some numbers. I dot add. So what I'm doing, I'm adding some objects to an array, something like 12. Some objects I'm adding a 12 object. And what I want to do, I just want to do replace. So for example, here what I'll do, I dot, I'll have a method called set. So okay, I'll show this first, then I'll be doing an addition. So even you can see here you have next, right? Has next as you have. Similarly, you have a method called previous. So I can even go in a reverse direction. I dot as previous. So it is going to print the elements from back order. From it is going to for has next, how it is going to start? It is going to start from 1. That is forward direction. In has previous, it's going to start from backward. 4, 2, like that also it will go. The same thing I can write here. As previous and I dot next. So you have a next will print next, and you have a previous will print that previous. The previous object that is going to print me the previous object. So I'm just printing the objects in previous order. So I can do all these things. So you see, forward order 2, 4. So these are nothing but the even numbers, 2, 4. In reverse order, you see 4 and 2. So in forward order, which one will come first? 2 will come as an even number and 4 will come as a next even number. So in reverse order, which will come as a first even number? 4, and next even number is 2, right? And your reverse order, so for example, it is printing, why it is printing 12? Because I have done a replacement of 12. You can see whenever there is an else condition getting satisfied. So whenever you are trying to remove an odd number, I am just adding the 12 number. So how many times your else will execute? 2 times, because you have 2 odd numbers. So that times what is happening, I am just adding a 12 and to an array list, and that 12 is going to get printed over here. Right here, you can go forward direction, you can do reverse direction, you can add some element. What you can do, you can able to even replace that. So what is the meaning of replace? I can just set. So set that object. So instead of so for example, instead of 1, I can set something like I'm not removing it. Instead of removing, what I'll do, whenever it's an odd number, we have 1, right? So instead of 1, I'll set something like 8. So 2 times I'll be setting 8. So when I'll run command, I'm going to have so 8. So you can see, you can try out your own examples and you get more clarity on this. So if you see, sharing this to you. Any confusions, Mike? You can just go through that. Are you clear with this, or any confusions do you have? So you can just go through the even this slide also once. So what's the difference between your iterator, enumerator, and list iterator? You can see what we have covered actually. So you can see like enumeration only for legacy classes. Iterator can be implemented for any collection. Your list iterator also can be any collection, and its goes your enumeration or iterator will be only in forward direction, but your list iterator forward and backward. It has only read access. It has read and remove access. It has read, remove, replace, and add access. That's what we have seen, right? So what are the different methods that you have? So your enumeration is legacy, and your iterator is not legacy. Your list iterator not legacy. Is that fine, Mike?
Yes.
Okay. I think this example also clear for you, right? Okay. So now we are entering into the set. So your list has been completed. So what's the main difference between your list and set? Your list will allow the duplicates and your list will preserve the insertion order. But in case of set, preserving of insertion order is based on the class. It is not guaranteed. and your the rule is for set is nothing but it will not allow the duplicates. If you're trying to store 10 duplicates also, it is going to store only one value. So that's the main difference for your list and set, right? And the same difference will be applicable for your child classes. So you as of now we have seen different child classes of your list, like array list, linked list, vector, and uh, like this, right? So similarly, we are going to see the child classes of your set. So like hash set and linked hash set. So you see what is what is that hash set state? Hash set store the elements by using a mechanism called they use internally hashing mechanism, and it allows only one null value. So it is just like your what I can say, like it will consider null also a value, and it is going to allow only one null value. But in case of list or array list, you can add any number of null values, and it is not synchronized. And I think I told you what is synchronized, right? So your asset is the best approach for searching operations, and it will not maintain the insertion order. Here elements are inserted based on the hash code. So for example, for every object you will have an hash code. Hash code is like address of the object. So based on that only the objects are getting stored. It is not guaranteed that which objects will be stored comes slow. You cannot guarantee that it is going to store it in insertion order, and for sure that it is not going to allow the duplicates. Can do. So assume that if I'm trying to do the same thing with hash set. I have taught you generic concept, Mike. What is generic? I have taught you, no, right?
Sorry, what's that?
I have not taught you what is generic, right?
Generate.
Generic. I think I have not told you. Okay, fine.
No.
So for example, what are the properties of your? I think in the beginning of my introduction about collection, I told you, right, the main difference between your arrays and collections. So one of the difference in that is your collections are heterogeneous. It means your collections will allow any data type to store. For example, your collection, in a collection, I can store an integer value, and in a collection, I can store a string value, or I can able to store a float value, right? So you see, al dot I can able to store some string value also here, right? Something like, so this is not my string value. So it is allowing your heterogeneous. So that will not be there in case of your arrays, right? So by default it is that. But if you see some warnings, right? So that warning is because there is no generic used. So what is the generic is? So by default they can able to do. But what you can do by default your collections are heterogeneous, but you can make it as homogeneous by using generics concept. So how I'll make it? I'll just write that whatever the type that you want to allow only to that collection object. So what I'm doing, I'm just writing integer here. So if I say integer here, what happens? to this collection of objects before you can add any objects, because there is no specification done here. But what I'm specifying here, I'm specifying it to an integer. It means I'm just converting, assume that I'm converting that heterogeneous to homogeneous. Now you are not allowed to add any object other than integer type. So if I'm trying to add a string value, it is going to show me an error. You can see. So the type method integer, that is not applicable for the argument string. So you cannot add a string. So you can write like this, or this any syntax is fine. So what is the importance of generics is because whenever you do a real-time application, for example, assume that there is no generics concept, right? I'm telling you what is the purpose of the generics. So for example, assume that there is no generics you have used. I think you understood what is generic, right? So it is like specifying whatever the data type that you want to be. So before case, I can add anything. I can add int, I can add string, I can add anything. So here the problem is, so for example, whenever you do a real-time application, you add some objects in collection somewhere, and you are going to get that in somewhere, right? So assume that what are the objects that you have added? You have added int as well as string objects. So for example, you are trying to iterate it. So here, when I'm trying to iterate it, so what is the object I need to get? I need to get an int value, right? So here, what I stored my last value, it is string. So, but here, what you are getting? Int value. So, can string can be stored in integer? Can I store like this in Java? Is
No.
Java allow
No.
an int value to store in string?
I don't think so.
Yes, it will not allow. This is type specific. So it will throw me which exception? It is going to throw me a class cast exception here. So why it is, your compiler will not show any other, because as per compiling it is fine, because compiler will not check whether what is the object that it gets stored, right? So why this error is because, okay, you are doing it in a hash set. Okay, as of now I'll do it in a regist.
So collection is like a big concept in Java, very
Yes,
big
yes.
one.
It's not like big one. It's every concept is big. So collection is a huge thing even. So, but it's not required else to like I'm teaching you which is required for an application development. So what happens? I think the basic I'm going to teach you. So whenever you feel you can able to learn whatever you want, right? So you can dig more whenever you want.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
here,
sure.
when I run this, what happens? It's going to give me a class cast exception. Why it is giving me a class cast exception? So you see, there is a class cast exception. So it is going to print up to this. So it is going to iterate this. It's going to print up to 2 and 4, right? So, but whenever it is come to the last element, so whenever it is trying to store this, whenever it is trying to convert it, what you are trying to do, you are as next, what it will get the string value. Whether string you cannot store it in an int, right? So that's the reason you get a class cast exception, right? String cannot be casted to an integer, right? So to avoid this reason only, you have a concept called generic type. So if I write a generic here, you don't get this runtime error. So whenever you do an application, which error is better, your compile time error or runtime error? Obviously your compile time error is better, because when you are not able to compile it, so you rectify that and you just deploy that code in a server. So but if you see in this case, there is no compile time errors, right? And if you deploy this and when you are running this application, and if you get this class cast exception, it is not at all acceptable, right? So this is like an issue. So you should try to avoid your runtime exceptions. So for that you need to, like, getting a compile time errors are fine. Like you have a compile time error, it means you rectify that compile time, because it will not allow you to run the code itself. So for that, if I write an integer here, you get a compile time, right? Then you are not allowed to add a string itself. So when you are not allowing a string itself, so there is no point of getting class cast exception, because this part of the code you should definitely remove it. Without removing, you cannot run the application itself. Right? You will, if you run, it will show a compile time error itself because it's showing your compile time error. Right? So I need to remove this. So now if I remove this, this is going to happen fine. That what we had seen before, the same. There is no class cast exception. It's going to work fine. Right? So that's the reason you add some generic type. So if I say integer, it is not allowed to an integer. So by seeing this generic type, you know you are guaranteeing that only the integer objects are getting added. So if the generic type is a string, what you get, you are trying to typecast into it. So at runtime, when you are trying to get an object, it is important what type you are converting it. So here there is a string objects, int objects are stored, and that's the reason you are having an int data type. If the string objects are stored, how you convert? You store that in a string, right? So that's the importance of your general, right? And we are going with an array. We are going with the concept of hash set, right? So here also you can have a same generic concept. So the generic concept can be applicable for all the collection classes. So what are the points that we discussed under hash set? Hash set allows your it will allow the duplicate. It will not allow the duplicate. It will not show any error. But when you are trying to add it, it is going to store only one value. So for example, if I'm trying to add two times, right? So it will not it will not store two times. It will store two only one time. Okay. Sorry. Here dot add. I'm just adding something again. As I said, it will add null values, right? But even null will be only for one time. So if you add it for two times also, it is not going to store that two times. What we discussed, it is not going to preserve your insertion order. It means it will not print. When I print, it will not print 152 like that. It will print as it likes. It's or not as it likes. It is like print. It's like based on your hash code. So every object, your integer, as I told you, it will convert an object, right? So it will have an hash code. Based on that hash code, it will store and it's going to print. So it's not required me to do all this. So I'm just running it as the application. You see, it is going to print first null value and 1. Don't think that it is printing in ascending order because it depends on the hash code. If I add something, it will not print in ascending order. So don't be in that thing that it will print in an ascending order. So I'll add some 100. L dot 0. So you see, this is not ascending order, this is not descending order. It is depend on your hash code of an object. So if you see, it's printing 0 first, and there is no, you cannot follow that insertion order. There is no insertion order, and you see there is no duplicates. For example, you added two times, but it is printing only for one time. You added null for 2 times, but it is printing null for 1 time. So the same properties again, it allows that heterogeneous because I don't have any generic type. If you make it as okay, if I have generic type. So if you don't have any generic type, it can have an heterogeneous. If you have mentioned generic type, you cannot add it. And the same points that we discussed. It's not synchronized, it will not maintain the insertion order and all. So for example, you are clear with this, right?
Yes. Sure. Can we wrap it here today?
Yes, if you want, fine. I'll just stop it here.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. Then tomorrow, probably we will be the same time, right?
Mostly it may be little late
Okay.
or fine. So no issues.
Maybe late, right?
Mostly it will not be late, but if anything, I'll let you know. So maybe
Sure.
to me, I cannot guarantee that. The problem is
I
call
understand. I mean, I understand. But possibly it will be later also tomorrow, right?
late also, even early also. Is it fine for you?
Yeah. I have no issue. I just
Okay.
yeah.
This is
Okay.
it's the only for tomorrow. So again, from day after tomorrow, it's from Friday, I think. So Friday, no,
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
call
sure.
gets right. So
Okay.
little adjustment again. Fine.
Yes, that's okay. That's okay.
I think you have the slide right, and you can just take that all the examples that I've shared you, and please go through the slide and or even
Yes.
for even this recording and
Yes, I will go through this. Yeah. So this is